Every chicken you eat came from a chicken family. But there is a strange problem hiding inside almost every carton of eggs. The eggs came from hens, and hens have brothers. So where are all the male chickens? If a chicken farm needs thousands of female chickens to produce eggs, roughly half of the chicks born will be male. They cannot lay eggs. They cannot become laying hens. So what happens to them? Do farmers raise them for meat? Do they become roosters? Do they live on farms? Or do they somehow disappear from the food system? The answer begins with something surprisingly simple. Male chickens can absolutely be eaten. There is nothing poisonous or inedible about a rooster. People have been eating male chickens for thousands of years, so the real mystery isn't, can we eat male chickens? It's, why aren't male chickens from egg farms commonly raised as meat chickens? And once you understand that, you uncover one of the strangest decisions humans ever made about a farm animal. Because modern chickens are not really one kind of chicken anymore. Humans have taken the same species and pushed it in completely different directions. One chicken is designed to produce eggs. Another is designed to produce meat. And that difference created a problem that begins the moment a chick breaks out of its shell. Imagine a huge hatchery. Thousands of eggs are lined up in rows. Inside every fertilized egg is a developing chicken. But the hatchery doesn't know whether each chick will become male or female simply by looking at the egg from the outside. And for an egg-producing farm, the difference matters enormously. A female chick can eventually become a laying hen. A male chick cannot. That sounds obvious, but think about what that means when you're producing chickens on an industrial scale. If you hatch 100 chicks, roughly half will be male. If you hatch 1 million chicks, roughly half will be male. And if your entire business is built around producing eggs, you suddenly have a very large number of animals that don't perform the job your farm was designed around. This is where the story becomes uncomfortable, because the male chicks aren't defective, they aren't sick. They aren't useless animals in nature. They simply don't fit the economic purpose of an egg-laying operation. And that distinction is incredibly important. The problem isn't really biology. It's specialization. The chicken in your breakfast isn't necessarily the same type of chicken that becomes the chicken on your dinner plate. Modern poultry production has created specialized breeds and lines for different purposes. Laying hens are selected for extraordinary egg production. Broiler chickens are selected for rapid growth and meat production. They're both chickens. But humans have spent generations selecting different traits in each population. Think about it like a machine. Imagine building one machine that had to do everything. It would need to produce eggs, grow large muscles, reproduce efficiently, survive on little food, and perform well in a commercial farm. Now imagine building separate machines, one optimized for producing eggs, another optimized for producing meat. The specialized machines can be much better at their individual jobs. That's essentially what happened with chickens. The modern laying hen has been shaped around egg production. A modern broiler has been shaped around meat production. And this creates a strange consequence. The female offspring of an egg-laying line can be valuable. The male offspring may not be, not because the male chicken cannot produce meat, but because he may not produce meat as efficiently as a specialized broiler. And that difference changes everything. At first, the solution seems obvious. If male chicks can't lay eggs, just raise them for meat. And people have done exactly that. Male chickens can be raised and eaten. Roosters are eaten in many parts of the world. Older roosters can be used in soups, broths, stews, and slow-cooked dishes. Their meat can be tougher than the meat from young broilers because older birds are more active and develop more connective tissue. But that's not the same thing as saying the meat is bad. It simply means the bird belongs to a different production system. And that's the key. A modern commercial broiler is not being raised because humans randomly decided chickens should be big. It has been selectively bred for rapid growth and efficient meat production. The industry wants a bird that can reach market size quickly while converting feed into usable meat efficiently. An egg-laying breed isn't optimized for that. Its body has been shaped around producing eggs. So imagine feeding a male chick from an egg-laying line for months. You're paying for feed, you're using housing, you're using labor, you're using energy, you're waiting. And after all of that, you may end up with a bird that produces less meat less efficiently than a chicken specifically bred for meat. Now the economics become obvious. The question isn't, can we eat him? The question is, does it make financial sense to raise him this way? And in industrial agriculture, that question can determine an animal's entire future. This is where something uncomfortable happens. A perfectly healthy animal can become economically undesirable. The male chick hasn't done anything wrong. It hasn't failed biologically. It simply isn't the sex the production system needs. The egg industry needs females. But nature doesn't produce only females. Roughly half of the offspring are male. So the industry has to deal with that biological reality. Historically, one solution was simple. Keep some males for breeding. A small farm might have a rooster living alongside several hens. The rooster helps produce fertilized eggs, and the extra males could potentially be eaten. That system works differently from a modern hatchery. A small flock doesn't need to produce millions of replacement hens. A commercial hatchery does. And when the numbers become enormous, the economics change dramatically. Suddenly, every extra animal requires resources. Fee, space handling, transportation, labor, housing, and time. The male chick becomes what economists might call a byproduct of producing the females. That is why the modern egg industry developed a controversial practice known as male chick culling. Male chicks from egg-laying lines may be killed shortly after hatching because they aren't suitable for either egg production or efficient broiler-style meat production. This is one of the most controversial parts of modern egg production, and it reveals something much bigger. Humans didn't simply domesticate chickens. We redesigned the chicken around what we wanted from it. Now imagine if you could identify the sex of a developing chicken before it actually hatches. You wouldn't have to hatch every male chick. You could identify the embryos while they're still inside the eggs. Female embryos could continue developing into laying hens. Male embryos could be removed earlier. This idea has led to technologies generally known as in ovo sexing. Scientists and companies have developed different methods for identifying the sex of developing embryos before hatch. The goal is simple. Solve the problem before the chick exists as a hatched animal. It's a fascinating example of humans trying to solve a problem created partly by our own agricultural system. We specialized the chicken. The specialization created unwanted male offspring. Then we developed technology to identify those males earlier. But there is another solution that humans have used for a very long time. Just eat them. The modern supermarket can make it seem like chicken has always meant one specific kind of meat. It hasn't. Historically, chickens served many different purposes. They provided eggs, they provided meat, they reproduced the flock. They could be used for fighting. They could have cultural and religious importance. And roosters could be valuable animals in their own right. A rooster's crow announces the morning. Its behavior can signal dominance. Its appearance can become associated with strength, aggression, courage, and status. In some societies, roosters became symbols. In others, they were used in cockfighting. And in many places, people simply ate them. Older roosters were often especially useful in slow-cooked dishes. Instead of treating the bird like a modern supermarket broiler, people treated it according to what it was: a mature chicken. Something that might require a different cooking method. So the idea that humans don't eat male chickens is actually misleading. We do. The strange part is that modern industrial agriculture doesn't necessarily want to raise the males from egg-laying lines for that purpose, and that's a very different statement. Walk into a supermarket and look at a whole chicken. It probably doesn't look very different from a chicken you'd see on a farm. But genetically and economically, it may belong to a very different world. Modern broilers have been selected for rapid growth and meat yield. Modern laying hens have been selected for egg production. The two populations can look surprisingly different. The broiler is built around meat. The layer is built around eggs. One produces the food in your breakfast. The other produces the food in your dinner. And both came from the same species. That's the strange part. Humans took one bird and split its biological future into different jobs. One became an egg machine. Another became a meat machine. And suddenly, sex became economically important. If you're producing eggs, You want females. If you're producing meat, both sexes can potentially become meat, but the breed or genetic line matters enormously. And this is why the phrase male chicken hides an entire system, because saying male chicken tells you almost nothing about what that animal is worth to a farmer. A male from a meat line is one thing. A male from an egg-laying line is another. A mature rooster is another. A young male bird is another. Same species, different production system, different economics. The strange male chick problem isn't entirely new, but industrial agriculture magnified it. Before modern hatcheries, chickens were often raised in smaller flocks. Farmers might keep a few roosters. They might eat surplus males. They might keep birds for eggs and meat at the same time. The boundaries weren't so rigid. One flock could provide multiple things: eggs, meat, breeding, alarm calls, even status. But industrial farming changed the equation. Instead of keeping a small mixed flock, you could build an enormous operation optimized for one output: millions of hens, millions of eggs, highly specialized feed, specialized housing, specialized genetics, specialized hatcheries, and specialized processing. Efficiency became the central goal. And once efficiency became the goal, every animal was evaluated according to what it could contribute to that system. That's when a biological difference became an economic problem. Here's where the story gets bigger. Why did humans create separate chickens for eggs and meat in the first place? Because specialization works. If you want a bird that produces hundreds of eggs, you select birds that are good at producing eggs. If you want a bird that grows quickly and produces a lot of meat, you select birds that are good at growing, then you breed those birds again and again and again. Over generations, the differences become larger. Eventually, you don't just have chickens, you have specialized agricultural animals. The wild ancestor of the chicken was not an egg machine, it wasn't a modern broiler, it was a bird. Humans decided which traits mattered, then we repeatedly selected those traits. And the animal changed. This happened with many domesticated species. But chickens provide one of the clearest examples because their two major industries are so different. One chicken produces eggs, another produces meat. And the male offspring of the first one suddenly has a problem. The simplest answer is, we do. Male chickens are edible. Roosters have been eaten for thousands of years. Young male chickens can be raised for meat. And in some traditional food systems, male chickens remain part of the diet. But that's not how most industrial egg production works. A male chick from an egg-laying line isn't designed to become an efficient broiler. He can't produce eggs, he may grow more slowly, he may convert feed into meat less efficiently. And raising him may cost more than the value of the meat he eventually produces. So the industry built around specialized egg production has historically had little economic incentive to raise those males. And that created the controversial practice of male chick culling. But now technology is trying to change that. In ovo-sexing could allow hatcheries to identify male embryos before they hatch. And alternative production systems are also exploring ways to give male chickens greater value. Because the fundamental problem isn't that male chickens are useless. It's that humans built a system where usefulness depends heavily on specialization. And that may be the strangest part. Humans didn't simply ask, what can a chicken do? We asked, what do we want this chicken to do? Then we changed the animal accordingly. One bird became an egg producer. Another became a meat producer. A rooster became a breeding animal. And a male chick from an egg-laying line became a problem the industry had to solve. This is what domestication really looks like. It's not just putting a wild animal on a farm. It's changing the animal's future, changing its body, changing its behavior, changing its value. And sometimes, changing whether an animal is wanted at all. The chicken sitting on a farm today is the result of generations of human decisions. Every egg, every broiler, every rooster, every laying hen. They're all part of the same story. A story that began with one wild bird and ended with humans creating an entire industrial system around its biology. So the next time you see a carton of eggs, there is a strange question hiding inside it. Every one of those hens had brothers. Those brothers didn't disappear because male chickens can't be eaten. They disappeared from the egg industry because humans created a system that didn't need them. And that leaves us with a much stranger question than the one we started with. Not, why don't we eat male chickens? But why did humans create a food system where half the chickens born were never needed for the job? And once you realize that, the ordinary chicken doesn't look quite so ordinary anymore.